Hello, hello, hello. This is Will. Welcome to Will Radio. I think it's part 2024 now, if I'm counting correctly. It's April 2nd, 2025. Probably keep this relatively short. It's been a long time since I've made a video. I think something like 3 weeks. I guess looking back on the bronze, the GM, and mini Cameron videos, especially, it seems like I make those in bursts. I'll make 4 or 5 in a row, maybe more, but then take a week or 2 or 3 off. I think that's probably just the nature of it, because it does take some time and attention to make those, and I've been very busy recently, so I think it sort of comes and goes, but I'm still intending to make more. I thought of a new name, instead of B to GM for Bronze to Grandmaster. It's like, what it should be, B to GMK for Mini Kenren, although I don't know how to say that. But that was kind of funny. I've gotten some friendly emails and people on Discord, conversations, that sort of thing. Several people have expressed that they've either caught up or they were happy when I was posting these videos on a regular basis. So I appreciate that. I do intend to go back to making more. Yeah. So I don't even know why I wanted to make this particular video, other than been thinking about it for a couple days. Like, hey, I should make a Will Radio. Said some things going on, and people were emailing me. He's like, hey, you're gonna make more beta GM? Yes, I plan to. I went to a special event last week. It was Dan Friedman's retirement celebration at Indiana University. So it's my first time in Bloomington since COVID. Got to see lots of friends and people I hadn't seen in a long time. So that was nice. There were some IU students who thanked me for the most beautiful program ever written talk, and for being a co-author on the Reason Schemer. One student said that they were in grad school because of that talk, or partially because of that talk, which I appreciate, partly because that was my feeling from many sources, right? It's like, I don't think that only that one talk would be what makes someone go to grad school, but I can understand that someone who's interested, that seeing a talk like that could inspire them more. And certainly I've had plenty of inspirations for me. So I've heard that a couple times now. I always appreciate it. Like, I guess part of me feels like, I don't know, since I gave that talk many years ago at this point, it's easy for me to kind of forget that it's still out there, but still gets views, still people contact me about it. I guess it's also funny that I've given, I don't even know how many talks, a lot. And that, there was one talk that kind of went viral. But that's fine. I mean, I'm happy to have one talk go viral. I'm glad people like that talk, and I've been thinking a bit about, why did that talk become as popular as it was? And I think I had a reminder of that when I was telling some stories at this event for Dan. Being in front of a live audience, telling some stories, I started to get that chill again, that thrill or that excitement. It's not even like a chill. It's more like, adrenaline shot. When there's an audience that's supportive, right? And it just reminds me how much that, to me, public speaking, or at least, giving a technical talk, feels like stand-up comedy. So that most beautiful program ever written talk, that very much felt like I was doing stand-up and had a super hot crowd, and I even had an opening talk, all that. And there was food and drinks, and everyone was just in a great mood, and as soon as I landed my first joke and I got a big round of laughs, I was like, all right, here we go. I'm going to kill it. That just gave me so much energy and confidence. So, yeah, that's not something I get from almost anything else. And it's also very hard to get that, even when I have been giving lots of talks. Like that's not something I've ever gotten outside the United States, except maybe in Poland for PolyConf. But there I have some friends in the audience. It's just very hard to have that sort of environment. Yeah. So anyway, got a little thrill there, just telling some stories about how exciting it was to be Dan's student. Yeah. I've been feeling like making more music. I was playing around with the DAWs and that sort of thing, and eventually it kind of felt like a drag. It's like, all right, I'm going to play with the DAW for half an hour, or 10 minutes or whatever. I think it was 10 minutes a day. I wanted to start the DAW and play around with it in Logic Pro. And so I did that for a month, but at some point I felt like I was repeating myself a little bit. And it's like, yeah, I did figure out how to work my way around, but I don't feel like it did much that sounded like music to me. But there's this Teenage Engineering OP1 that I have, not the OP1 Field, and now they have like a XY or something. There are a few different variants. They're newer variants, but I haven't one of the older ones, which I got new. It was pretty expensive. It was like $1,200. And this is a very polarizing instrument from a very polarizing company. You hear the same arguments that you might hear about like an Apple product, right? It's like, well, you can get a much cheaper box and put GNU Linux on it, right? And get a lot more computation for the buck or whatever, like you might hear about Macintosh. And obviously, if you're just looking for what you could do capability-wise with the digital audio workstation, even one of the free DAWs, but certainly something like Logic Pro or Ableton, or is it like FL whatever? I don't know that one, but there's another one. It's like FL. I always think Florida. I don't know what it is. Obviously, those software packages are enormously powerful. And if you're running on a modern computer, they have so much processing power, you can do all this amazing stuff. The OP1 is actually a great step backwards in many of those capabilities. However, there's one really cool thing about the OP1. Actually, I'd probably say it's more like a Nintendo Switch than an Apple product. Because the Apple hardware is actually really good. It's just expensive. The OP1 is more like a Switch in that, yeah, obviously you could get something much more capable. And you could even, if you're just looking at flops per dollar, it's not a good bargain. However, or a RAM or specs on a piece of paper. However, it has an awesome interface. And that reminds me of the Switch. I really like the Switch form factor, how portable it is. You can play a game in bed, that sort of thing. And in fact, with my Switch, I never docked it to anything. I think I maybe tried it once. It was like, I have no interest in that. I just like the portability of it and kind of the form factor. And there's some things that the Switch isn't good at if you're playing it that way. But for some things, and you're using the accelerometers for like Splatoon, it's awesome. OP1 feels like that to me. It just like has really, really nice interface design. It's very portable. It's got a battery that lasts a long time. I mean, OP1 Field's supposed to be better and all this stuff for like $2,000. Maybe that's a better device, has more RAM and whatever. But the OP1 has constraints, and I like the constraints. I like the fact that there's certain things it's good at, and there's a certain approach it takes that's based on like a 4-track recorder, like a tape recorder. And that's how you interact with it. And so it has these constraints, and it's based on doing things live as opposed to doing sequencing. So one of the new OPs is more like a sequencing based thing. And I have plenty of sequencer type software or hardware, but I like the fact that OP1 has an imperfect performance, but it's the only musical instrument I've gotten of any form, analog or digital, electronic, acoustic, where I could start making music or interesting sounds like immediately. So when I went to Indiana, I just felt like, I gotta get back into this. So I threw it in my backpack, and I actually played it on the plane. I played with it on the plane a bit. And there's a song, Deeper in You, by the YouTube channel Red Means Recording. And there are two versions of the song. They were both done on OP1. I think there was some processing afterwards, but basically it was done on OP1. There's the final version, which is good, but even better, there's the making of it. There's a video showing how this was made, and that's awesome. And that's like an example of, talent not included when you watch someone who's that skilled at making music on an OP1. It's like, okay, the problem is just like StarCraft, right? Like the problem's not in your opponent's base, it's in your base. It's like if you can't make good sounding music with an OP1, you can't blame it on the OP1 after hearing something like Deeper in You and watching how that was made. And in fact, the OP1 I think is awesome. I think the Deeper in You video, the making of it, really shows off how you might think about an OP1. And an OP1, I was thinking about this the other day. The OP1 actually reminds me a lot of Scheme. It's very small, or like R5 Scheme maybe. It's very small and self-contained, and it doesn't try to do everything. But there's like a whole world there that you can explore. And so that's how I felt about the OP1. So anyway, I want to play around with that more. Of all the things I've done with music, playing with the OP1 somehow felt most natural. Like the interface is actually kind of complicated. Okay. It's not like you just learn everything. It's pretty deep actually, but there's something about it I like. So I think I'm going to play with that some more. Oh, let's see. I've been busy. That's why I haven't made any more videos. And sometimes when I get busy, I get very frustrated because I want to hack on Mini Kenrin or do some Scheme stuff. And one of the things I've realized is that in addition to sort of my regular work, I've been too busy with Mini Kenrin and Scheme to do Mini Kenrin and Scheme because I'm co-organizing the Mini Kenrin workshop this year at ICFP in Singapore, and I'm co-organizing the Scheme workshop this year at ICFP in Singapore, and I'm on the Pergo committee for ICFP, and I'm reviewing papers and going to the monthly Mini Kenrin research seminar and seeing people's talks on Mini Kenrin related things, and looking at grant proposals related to all these things. And so it's like, well, I guess if I'm going to be too busy to do Mini Kenrin hacking, at least I'm busy because I'm doing other things having to do with Mini Kenrin hacking. So, yeah. But I still would like to do more hacking. And so I've been thinking about how I could arrange that. And, I had this pretty uncomfortable feeling, actually, that for the monthly Mini Kenrin research seminar, I was like, hey, we need speakers, we need topics. And then when I visited Bloomington, there was a chance to do lightning talks on research. And I realized in both those cases, like, wow, I don't feel like I have anything new to talk about. The last thing I had new to talk about was Midori Kenrin, which I gave a talk in Spain about, and I haven't pushed that too much further. And you could argue that's not really that new in some sense, because that's basically metacanron, minicanron, and minicanron, plus the relational interpreter, and those sorts of things. So those aren't really new. It's sort of combining old things, which often is the case in research. But I don't like having this feeling that I don't have something new to talk about. So yeah, I think I need to get on that. Let's see. I set a new record today. Not a good one. It was, I think this is the maximum weight I've ever reached. It was 221 pounds. When I was visiting Bloomington, I remembered when I was climbing 3 or 4 times a week, and I was jogging and all this stuff, I weighed 178 pounds. In high school, I weighed 132 pounds. That was too little. But 178 was like really, really good. That was a good climbing weight. When I was climbing and exercising, I didn't want to eat a whole lot, or I was just careful. Sometimes I'd indulge. But right now, I've been eating too much. The Mother Bear's pizza in Bloomington didn't help any, but that's not really the problem. And when I'm feeling heavy, I don't really want to do things like climbing. In fact, I was thinking about today, I was doing some weights, some free weights. They're like 2 10-pound dumbbells, one for each arm. And I was thinking, oh, wow, compared to my climbing weight when I was climbing a lot, it's like I'm wearing a backpack with 4 of those dumbbells. No wonder, climbing doesn't feel that enjoyable. And I've been having a lot of back pain again recently. In fact, in Bloomington, at one point walking back to the hotel, I'd been talking to friends for like an hour and a half. We were just standing on the sidewalk, and when I was walking back, it's like I had to sit down for a bit because I was getting back spasms. Now, I've had back pain for a long time, so it's not just my weight, but I don't think an extra 40 pounds helps. So, what to do about that? Last night and this morning, I was like, all right, I need to make a change here. I'm not happy with this. I think the core thing I've got to get back into is being comfortable with being hungry. This idea of being comfortable, feeling uncomfortable. I remember someone describing it as like, I was happy to lose weight until I realized it meant I was going to be hungry a lot, or hungry all the time. I guess that's why these like the drugs like Ozempic or whatever are so popular, is that people don't feel hungry in the same way, right? I think if those drugs come out with like GLP-1 agonists or whatever, if and when they come out in pill form, that's going to be, one of the all-time great sellers. But in any case, there was a time where I was losing weight, not super long ago, and I just was comfortable feeling hungry. And today I haven't eaten anything except for black coffee and some water. Have a sip of black coffee. So one of the things I did today was I uninstalled DoorDash. It's not all DoorDash's fault, but DoorDash has definitely been an enabler in this relationship because, yesterday for lunch, I ate like a big lunch, and then I thought, okay, that's it, nothing more. And then for dinner, it's like, oh, I'm starting to get a little hungry. I could have that pizza the other day. It tasted really good. How about a pizza and, a Dr. Pepper? How about I eat a whole pizza and a Dr. Pepper as a snack? So I try to get back into it. It seems like it's very hard for me to do this part way when I'm trying to lose weight. It's like I either have to just be super strict about it and just say, I'm only going to eat every other day, or I'm going to really limit my calories to whatever my calorie count is, and I'm only going to eat things where I know how many calories they are, roughly, that sort of thing, and just really keep a budget. Once I kind of relax that, then I get into trouble. It's like, it's okay if I say every once in a while I have a milkshake or something. That's different. But yeah. So anyway, I think the trickiest part is being able to function and feel like a normal human while I'm being hungry. I think that's the trickiest part, and I've found is more of a mental shift than anything else, And if I'm used to getting up and all right, go to the coffee shop and have a nice cappuccino and a pastry, and and then for lunch, what's for lunch and what's for dinner, and then we have a snack after dinner, all that stuff. As soon as I get into that mindset, I'm in trouble. Having black coffee, having tea, all that. I found that I can totally do that. I can, at some point, I just stop thinking about how hungry I am. I can just get used to it. But if I then go to starting to eating again, a kind of like regular way, I can destroy that feeling pretty quickly. So I think this is the tricky part. And the other thing is, I think last time I tried doing this, I did it too quickly. I was like, okay, I'm going to lose all this weight, in a short period of time. And I was trying to lose like 5 pounds a week or something. And just that caught up with me. So it's like, all right, more like learning kanji, right? Might take 8 months or something. Let me see if I can do it that way. So anyway, it's a challenge, but I will see what I can do. And then here's another thing, which I think is actually related, like my eating habits and my weight and exercise or lack of it. I think also has to do with, is my place clean? What am I spending my attention and focus on? How much attention and focus am I giving to things? What is my diet for news? What is my diet for internet stuff? Am I doing things like reading books, physical books, or am I or papers, or am I just on YouTube? So I think I need to think more holistically about my overall diet. But one thing is, how much attention and focus do I spend during my day? I just saw the Cillian Murphy meme where during interviews he's like staring off into space, and it's like disappointed Cillian Murphy, I think it is, where it's like looks like he's thinking about some person far away with a look of slight disappointment on his face. He now knows about that meme, but that feels like me often. I'm just a kind of, there's something going on, and I am definitely not entirely there. But I'm there enough where I'll like notice mistakes, for example, if it's technical things, or I'll usually have something to point out or something to take. And then there's some times where I'm like 100% focus. But that's something I can try to pay attention to. Like, what do I pay attention to? And one thing I've learned is it's hard to just say, okay, I'm going to pay attention to this thing for the next hour if it doesn't seem exciting, or if it's a presentation and the presentation doesn't seem well organized, that kind of thing. Like I definitely have always struggled with that. But then there'll be something where it's like, oh, okay, now this is the time to really pay attention, and then I'll get a lot out of it. But yeah, I don't know. That's always been a problem for me. And then, what do I spend time and attention on? Okay, this is one of life's mysteries, right? So January, I tried doing my ultra rotation, you might call it, where I tried doing everything. Tried doing a little of everything every day. That happened, and I was staying up till 4 a.m. trying to get stuff done. But I think ultimately it wasn't very effective in pushing me forward on too many things. I mean, it did get me doing things like getting the doll started and playing with that, and getting out the oil paints for the first time and playing around with that. So it was actually pretty good at getting me started on things that I had either started and abandoned or never started. So from that standpoint, it's actually very good, like good activation energy. But in terms of being able to spend attention and focus and longer term improvement, wasn't effective. So one of the things I've been thinking about, well, I love StarCraft. Okay, so I've been watching Vibes, Browns of GM series. I watched a little last night. I was laddering. I've been too busy to ladder recently. Hopefully I can do some laddering this weekend. What else? Had been reading about physics, got too busy for that. Then had been studying Japanese, too busy for that. Had been doing some music, too busy for that. On and on and on. So what do I want to spend my attention on? And I do weekly hangouts sometimes with friends in Japan and friends who are, studying Japanese. So one question always is, well, do I want to be doubling down on Japanese? I saw an interesting video on YouTube where a person was interviewing non-Japanese native speakers who went to Japan and actually can speak Japanese at a high level. And one woman was talking about, and she said, just, go for it, go completely, learn everything. Just really let yourself loose and embrace it. And I thought that was great. That was great advice. I remember being on the Tokyo subway at one point and looking at the LED signs, and it had the kanji for different stations. And I was trying to figure out, okay, so which station do I think this is? Trying to like reverse engineer the language and the kanji and all that. And every once in a while I could get something based on my knowledge. And it's like, wow, that was like really motivating, really paying attention and in context, so when I'm completely paying attention, actually I can learn, I think, a lot. But it's easy for me to slip into, hey, I'm on a YouTube video for saying Japanese and the comments are all Japanese. Like, just click on the translate to English button instead of trying to puzzle through it, that sort of thing. So, it's not like I have an answer to these things, but one thing I did notice today is I was watching a few videos on YouTube music. So Rainych, I don't know how you say this, Rainych. That's the YouTube channel for a singer from Indonesia, and she loves singing Japanese songs or songs in Japanese. She's quite popular. So I found out about her because there's a song called Disco Light that is from Shibayan Records, which is my favorite Toho project music producer. I love the electronica from Toho project, and from Shibayan. Shibayan also does bossa nova Toho project music. So I hadn't seen anything from Shibayan for a while, and then I saw this video for Disco Light featuring Rainichan. I don't know. It's supposed to be Chan. Rainichan. I don't know how you say it. But that song was like, oh, this is awesome. More Shibayan. And Rainy CH also has done covers of Doja Cat's Say So, but part of it's in Japanese. And then more recently, the Weeknd's Blinding Lights, which is, basically an 80s song, a modern 80s song, because the Weeknd was playing GTA Vice City, I think, and liked the 80s songs, which of course I grew up with. So Blinding Lights definitely does feel like an 80s song, but hearing Blinding Lights where most of the lyrics are in Japanese sung by this Indonesian singer is like, oh yeah, it sounds totally different. It sounds like the song was originally in Japanese and then it got translated to English. So just listening to that, it's like, oh yeah, I really want to learn Japanese. So I guess there's just a sort of emotional level connection that's maybe the most important thing. So I don't know. I've been thinking about like, do I just go all in on Japanese? And like, what does that mean to other things I want to do? I'm not sure. And it's like, it's not like you speed run Japanese, right? So I don't know what that means to go all in. Like, all in for how long? PhD level all in, like all in, see you in 6 years. Don't know. Maybe I just combine it different ways because there is the little schemer and the season schemer, and now there's some other books in the little book series. Unfortunately, not the reason schemer, but there are other books in the little series that are in Japanese, and I have the little schemer and the season schemer in Japanese. So things like that, and of course there's all the 5th generation computing project works in Japanese. So I mean that could be something. Maybe all project based, and there's Natsuko no Sake, which I started translating, and I can read a little bit now. So maybe I just do project based things and then embrace that seriously as a hobby. I'm not sure. There's always the FOMO. Like if I'm going hard on Japanese, what am I not going hard at? But on the other hand, when I try to do everything at once, then I'm not going hard on anything. So I've been feeling the Japanese. I really want to get into it. And I've also been feeling the OP1, right? So there you go. Well, which one do I go into? I don't know. Hard. And also kind of along with that, do I do the homebody lifestyle where, I'm just modulo some exercise. I'm just trying to stay in one place and focus on the things I'm trying to learn and do, or do I embrace the travel again? Before COVID, I was traveling a lot. I was going to Japan twice a year, going to Europe, and traveling around the U.S. quite a bit, giving lots of talks, going to lots of conferences, and then COVID stopped all that. Do I want to have that more stimulating lifestyle, even though part of the problem is like I feel super stimulated doing those things, but then it's like, oh yeah, I'm so excited. Oh great, now I'm so excited after talking to all these people. Oh, well wait, now I got to catch up on all this work and I've got another trip in like a week and a half. And so when am I going to do all these great things I'm inspired to do? That was kind of the downside. It was like I was super excited all the time, but it was hard for me to to settle down and actually get big things done. And then just the SE2, I have been watching Artosis cast. I try to watch one a day. Interestingly enough, I mean, I guess it's not shocking, but Artosis says that it's actually his shorter videos, like his daily Artosis cast videos that do best, like a 12, 18-minute video. Whereas the ASL, Freaka Star League, which now Soup Star League, but now back to us Freaka Star League, those longer, like 3-hour videos with him and Tasteless, or he was casting the ASL qualifiers, so you have 3-hour videos, that those didn't do as well. And I understand that because I tried watching some of those, and it's like 3 hours is a big chunk of time, so then I have to, can't watch it in one sitting. Try watching one game, but these were like, anyway, it's a different thing watching a 3.5-hour video and trying to pay attention to it than watching a 20-minute video. So, for the Beta GM or Beta GMK videos, same sort of thing, but there's also at some aspect it like, the beta GM videos from Vibe really are like 2.5 or 3 hours each. And for at least many of the things I've been talking about, I don't know how to make 15-minute chunks of those. I'm not even sure how that makes sense. So, yeah. So, yeah, I've been poking around at SC2 again, and part of me would say, oh, yeah, I'd love to get up to Master Grandmaster. But once again, what do I go hard at? Or do I go hard at one thing, to the exclusion of other things? I'm not sure. Music's something I've always wanted to do, and I've always felt like I've never really made any progress with. Japanese, same thing. SE2, I have made some progress. I got up to high plat at one point. I'm sure I could get up to high plat again, probably in diamond without too much additional work. But then what? Like, do I actually try to go? How far do I push it? Yeah. So that's sort of the question that I'm always asking myself. Like, what do I spend my time on, right? Okay. Well, that's it for update right now. And I do hope to get back to making the beta GMK videos soon. I hope this weekend I can make some, if not before. We're already getting into the weekend soon. Got some stuff to do. Part of it is like, there's a lot to do for all the ICFP stuff, and then there were some paper revisions that were very intense, and some grant stuff that was very intense. So, just outside my regular work, there's always other things, and it was just one of these times where I had a whole lot of other things. But I think there's going to be a little bit more downtime for now at least, but I also just have some stuff to catch up with. So anyway, I hope to be back to this soon. All right. Hope you all are doing well, and I'll talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.